Hello, hello, and this is your favorite radio host, Elijah Dua, back at it again with another show, courtesy of Raw 1251. And today's a very special one. So we've got another episode of Radio Eli. Obviously, this is a show where we do every 2 weeks. Moved it to a Wednesday now, but where we talk about various interests that I have. And so up until this term, I'd mainly been focused on like mental health and sort of how young people can support each other better at university in particular. But then this time I sort of had a new vision for the show and wanted to go in a little bit of a different direction. So I invited on a very good friend of mine and an amazing person who's doing amazing things in the economics area here at the University of Warwick and beyond. And he's my guest today, and I'm going to let him introduce himself without further ado. So all I want from him is his name, what he's studying, age, obviously year of study, and one cool thing about himself. So,
all right, perfect. Well, hello everyone. My name is Carlos Angulo. I am right now 20 years old. I am a second year economics and industrial organization student here at Warwick. I was born and raised in the city of Trujillo, Peru, a small city by the sea in the north of Peru. It's quite cozy, but we don't really have much stuff over there, hence why I am here, trying to develop my academic expertise, things that I can do for people, especially in content creation, an area of which I am fond. And something cool about myself, which brings us here today actually, is that before doing my IGCSEs, I had the choice between becoming a proper streamer and YouTuber in gaming or to become a full-on academics. I took the latter, as you may tell actually, but that actually took me back to that dream of pursuing content creation, now not in gaming, or hopefully later on, but now in academics, and here we are, so I am just thrilled to be here.
Amazing. Thanks for that introduction. A very in-depth introduction. Thank you very much for that, Carlos.
Thank you.
So, what we're going to be talking about today is quite a few things, because Carlos has been very busy in this last year and a half, but almost going on 2 years now that we've been at university, but specifically this year. So we're going to start with Angulo Live, which is something that he launched very recently. And I want to ask you sort of, what is this all about? What is Angulo Live all about? What can you tell us about this?
Perfect. So in its essence, Angulo Live is just a platform for me to communicate to the world who I am as a person, who I am as a learner, and how I want to shape academic tools in order for them to become easier to understand, both visually and numerically, for those people who, and especially students, who may require an additional input rather to just the static PDFs that we normally receive on Moodle, that is the platform through which us work students study, or my WBS in the counterpart for the business school. But in general, staying away from just static images with which the users and students in this case cannot interact, but rather through visualization methods that I code using the Wolfram language, so that students can actually interact with the models, see what changes in the functions, what changes in the computations, so that they can build their own intuition independently to class material, so that they can actually become independent learners and not dependent learners.
So this all sounds fantastic. And I remember when you were telling me about this, quite a while ago actually,
Yes.
Because your inspiration seemed to come... it seems to be like this, especially when it comes to creative ideas, but inspiration can come from anywhere. So when you had the idea for Angulo Live, it sort of came with probably having a very random conversation, and you sort of it kind of spawned.
And funny enough, I do remember how I developed the idea. It was with you in the Heronbank kitchen, the famous 106. Shout out to Kieran and Ritika.
And to Jan, who's not here, sadly. But
in Spain. Hola, Jan, si nos escuchas. So we were over there in the kitchen right after one test that I sat for microeconomics in year one. And I started to see that I could develop generalized constraint optimization solutions, at least in that case, for the content that I studied in microeconomics year one. And I saw potential in just talking to Elijah in making this a proper thing that is not only constrained for the understanding of economics students, but rather to other fields in applied mathematics, but now using computing resources. Because nowadays, something that I do see as an area of improvement is that we are, at least in economics, we're not giving as many computing resources as I would prefer. At most, we use this one program called Stata, and that is essentially for statistical and econometric analysis, which is perfect. But I believe that there is improvement for even more areas that are more visual in terms of the graphs that we normally study. Let's say the typical ones, supply and demand, at both microeconomic and then at the macroeconomic level. And there are just many areas in which I saw this area of improvement. And from then onwards, in that 14th of January of 2022.
You and dates.
Yep. I can tell you the time as well. 10:27. I don't know, 10:30 ish. We can call it something like that.
Yeah.
And from then onwards, I just started developing more tools for more of my modules. And here we are right now. I started then with just 4 tools. I have now coded today my 36th and counting, and it is for a number of areas, as I said: microeconomics, macroeconomics, now econometrics, industrial organization, and game theory. And it just keeps expanding. I just keep expanding now in YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok to other students, not only English speakers but also Spanish speakers, as that is my native language. And I do have some people I know back in Peru.
Also French. You speak Spanish and French, but I mean, he speaks a lot of different languages. This is one thing I wanted to pick up on, because it's like, I don't know if you've ever considered, I know that you've obviously, in Spanish is your native language. So
yes, it is.
It carries over nicely with the English as well. But you also speak French very well. Like, we will speak together sometimes. My parents said the same thing, but they say that you speak very, very well. But I just want to point out, because you have a very wide range of skills, from languages to also coding. I wanted to move on to that, because the skills you had to pick up in order to make this work took some time to develop, didn't they?
Yes, it did. It was mainly thanks to a recommendation from my research supervisor for last summer, because that was actually the source of this entire project. I applied for a program called the Undergraduate Research Support Scheme here at the university. Thankfully, I got marked as the highest scoring application in the department for that year, and the department did believe fully in my proposal. They funded my project entirely, and it was my research supervisor, Dr. Andrew Harkins, who recommended me the Wolfram language, of which at that moment I knew it was a thing, but I did not know how to code or how to go about it. And unfortunately, the resources that were online were rather I mean, they were existing, for that I'm grateful, but they were very scattered. So I had to go through online forums, through YouTube videos, to just learn by myself and start developing that over June, July, and August, which, as I said, 3 months. It did take a while. It was quite a trip, but here we are now. Now I think I can develop Wolfram codes to a complex extent. They are quite extensive in nature. Sometimes they are daunting, but when I get one of them done, it's a feeling I cannot even begin to describe.
And that's a key thing I wanted to talk about as well. Is you know, when embarking on your own journey, as you've done, on your own research journey, and obviously leading to, you know, you now going into content creation as well, which we'll touch on later. But I want to give a little bit of advice for people who want to do that, because starting something new and having to pick up the skills for it is like quite a daunting thing sometimes, because you can have this idea in your head sometimes for a while, right? Because for me, in radio and podcasting, I had this idea in my head for quite a while that I knew that I wanted to start doing this, and I knew that I had, you know, a lot of areas of interest that I wanted to cover. But picking up the skills to make it work is difficult, because you can't just you can go into it and develop those skills, but it's kind of scary to get started on that journey. So, I mean, I'll pass it over to you in a second, but for me, the one piece of advice that I give to people is, like, you know, don't be afraid to get started, because you always have to start somewhere, right? Nobody starts off, you know, you didn't start off knowing how to, you know, do complex coding and how to create a website straight away. And you know, those things you jumped into it and you allowed yourself to learn these things along the way, but you allowed your passion to lead you there. So I want to ask you, what advice would you give people who also want to, maybe it's not in economics or, you know, or coding or content creation, but maybe it's in another area. What would you say to people who sort of, they're eager to start something of their own, but they don't know really where to start?
It's interesting that in the interdisciplinary nature of this conversation, that you studying English literature and me studying economics and industrial organization, they are very different fields. But in that nature that we're talking about, of just people being very passionate about a project or an idea or even a dream that we have as just young learners of a very complex world that is always subject to change with globalization and technology now in ChatGPT that can do absolutely everything. But that's another topic. The main thing is that if you have a dream, either envisioned by the things you do on a daily basis or an idea that popped up in your mind at some point, don't be ashamed of it. I know many people who randomly tell me about their plans for the future, and they tell me, "Oh, but I'll never be able to do this," or "No, I don't have confidence in myself," or "I think I'll be too ashamed to just put myself forward to the world." And I think that, of course, people normally, and especially young people, will have our own insecurities, but in its essence, by having just a source of inspiration, either if it's abstract or well planned, because at some point my project was not planned at all. I had to improvise along the way, and I had to see how it developed over time and to what extent, because I did not know that I would be here 1 year ago. Things take turn of events very rapidly and unexpectedly, so you have to live with that. But in its essence is do not give up and ask questions. Do not always be curious, be open to change, be open to receiving feedback, because at many points I have received quite critical feedback about the codes that I developed, even from Wellfarm itself when I contacted them. But over time, after seeing the passion that I had and discipline, and also my formality, because it will not make sense how passionate we may be about something if we do not convey it in a respectful way to others. That might actually be quite bad for us. So yeah, it's that. Just be curious, be open, ask questions to those who are more experienced in the field, perhaps supervisors, lecturers, or even your friends. Just ask questions, be open, and be your curious self that you probably are.
No, exactly, because it's I always say, like, people have different skill sets. So, like, for me and for you, so, like, my dad is very much into economics and maths, but not so much me. Not that I don't enjoy, we sometimes have discussions about, maybe the less mathematical side of economics, but, like, I can't necessarily help you with the in-depth technical stuff. But in terms of, like, in other areas, like, I can use the skill sets that I have to be able to help you, and you could do vice versa. It's not that, when it comes to, like, looking for advice, it's not just that you should also just ask people in your field. Sometimes actually getting input from people outside can also help you to improve the things that you do. At least that's what I've learned sort of at the start of sort of my own journey as well, which has been an interesting one, because it's like similar to you, like, a year ago I didn't really see myself, doing a lot of the things I'm doing now. But you stick at it, and you see what you enjoy, and you keep going, and you try to naturally, when you enjoy something a lot, you also have a desire to do well, and that is often what pushes you to be great and do amazing things. But you have to start somewhere, and the thing is, you can always strive to be great, but you have to start humble and say, okay, I've just started, let me lean on people who are more knowledgeable or know more in this area than I do. And then at some point you become that person who people go to. Very soon people will start asking you about how good or live, and they'll start asking you to give them advice or on their own stuff. We were giving a little bit of advice to people who are just starting out, but at some point, you'll be able to give even more in-depth advice about, how to go about, maybe it's first year econ students, who they not only can they benefit from your website, but they can also benefit from, having a conversation with you too. But I wanted to ask sort of, how do you plan to expand Angular Live in the next, I don't want to go too far, but I'll say just starting with the next year or two. Mm-hmm. So how do you plan to expand it further than the point that it's reached so far? Okay,
so essentially right now in the short term, during exam season, it is quite difficult to sustain an efficient posting schedule, because I have to do my own revision for my own exams. So that is delaying some posts actually, and I cannot post as much as I would want to. However, luckily in the next few weeks I'll be off to the United States for a training program with Wolfram itself, And during that, I will naturally make a lot of content on the subject, even a day of my life, or explaining how the program is over there, and explaining how the trip from the UK to the US is, just in general vlogs and things like that could be cool. And that is just in the short term. Keep expanding the tools that I have in using not so formal delivery, because right now what I do is in Instagram and TikTok I promote my calculators not in the technical side of it, but rather in a more of a humoristic way, as I do AI voice generators of presidents talking. For instance, in some of my reels we have naturally having Biden talking to Trump, talking to Obama about many things that I do, or sometimes other types of TikToks, of reels that sometimes are trends, or things that I can pick up and I can actually do. So that is a plan for the short term, just getting to more university students also through YouTube. That is actually, next to Instagram, my main platforms, and growth over there. I mean, of course, right now it's quite small, but it has been quite stable, and I am quite grateful for it. Hopefully, to the near future, i.e., as you said, between 1 to 2 years, I will have a much more substantial basis of content in which I actually post longer videos that are also smaller lectures, but that aren't as formal in a more of a university way, but rather they are short, nimble, and very visual, because I am a visual learner. I enjoy using color and using animations, so you can expect those types of things in the videos that I post for explaining difficult concepts in, as I said, macroeconomics, and econometrics. Those will be my 3 main areas of focus for 1 to 2 years, and after, depending on where life takes me, either because I'm now exploring routes, I'm exploring the route of doing a master's degree or even a PhD, or just working in an economic consultancy. I am right now not sure what is going to happen, because it's also up to destiny. But in any of those paths, I will continue pursuing my content, but tailoring it towards the life that I develop. If it's in PhD, and which would be much more in relation to what I am doing right now, then I will have the ability to explore these concepts to an even further extent, or even show to both English-speaking and Spanish-speaking audiences, hopefully later on in French and German as well.
That'd be amazing, yeah.
That would actually be cool.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm keeping it English and Spanish. To explain how my life is as a PhD candidate and things that I do on a daily basis, because as I can tell from how the YouTube algorithm works and how some YouTubers have grown, especially in the area of academia, that many people are actually interested in seeing how the life of such a complicated research endeavors can be. So me portraying it in a more friendly and in a not so formal context, I think that could do quite well in the internet. So I will be hoping for the best.
These sound really exciting. So what I want to do is I'm going to take a little break and we'll play some music. So we've got Born for This by The Score, who are one of my favorite bands. I don't think you've heard this song actually, so this will be new for you.
Probably.
But then we're gonna go on to, so we started talking about the content creation / YouTube side. We're gonna move on to that.
Perfect.
But we also want to talk about your research project.
Lovely.
And ICA, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that as well. I think we'll go for that first, and then we'll talk about the YouTube and content creation stuff. And then we also want to talk about you outside of academia, because you're a very interesting person. So we want to talk a bit about that as well. But we'll take a short break and we'll be back in some minutes.
Sweet.
Okay, and we are back after that short break for some music. So next part of this show, we were going to talk a bit about, do you know what? Let's get the academic stuff out of the way. Let's do the research project first. I want to talk a little bit about that just briefly. So during the summer, obviously, for people who don't know, during the summer, undergraduate students can apply to do a research project. So I want you to just talk through briefly the process of doing that and what it led up to.
Okay, so it was quite a wild trip for me, because it was thanks to a reference from one of my lecturers that he discovered the program, and I tried to get a supervisor, and that's the very first step that students, especially here at Warwick, given the way that it works, that they have to approach it. Contact a research supervisor, notably someone in the department or someone in the field of interest of the student, so that they can further discuss proper ideas and how to actually make their academic ideas, bring them into life in either a research paper or another presentation format. And in those lines, what I did first was craft a proposal, answering the research, the research applied questions that appeared in the application form. They were quite straightforward, so I just described my plan, which was mainly in applied mathematics and coding, which I was told it is quite unconventional in the economics department, but gratefully thankfully they did go for it. They supported me, and from then onwards it was the time to actually execute the project. And that was as soon as my summer exams ended for year one, I began working on it. It was mainly for me just working on algebra, analyzing constraint optimization problems, which is essentially maximizing the value of a function in purely algebraic terms, subject to constraints that consumers and producers face in optimizing their decisions of how much to buy, for the case of consumers, and in terms of producers, how much to produce and how much entry inputs, such as capital or labor, to purchase.
And then you presented your work, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And quite a few of us came along to that. So that was, I'm trying to remember the exact date now, I can't, but was that term 1?
That was term 1 of year 2, exactly.
Yeah, term 1, yeah. So that was term 1. So yeah, you produced, you did the presentation on your work. That one was in the Oculus, wasn't it?
In the Oculus OC 103.
Yeah, and that went extremely well. You did very well. You got some good feedback, I remember.
Yes.
Did you? Because I was there for you, but there with you. But what were the emotions like before you did that? Because that's a pretty big moment.
Actually, it was normal for me. I am quite fond of public speaking, and especially in that presentation/lecture type of format, I'm quite comfortable with that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was just a representation of the hard work that I had put over June, July, and August in those things that I discussed before in the more mathematical side, but I had to bring it to life in a different way. So during my presentation, and thankfully for the listeners, I did not really talk much about maths, but rather given real life examples of the applications that I did.
Leo Messi made an appearance in there.
Of course he did.
Yeah, we won't get onto the whole, but we will. Do you know what we will get onto? We will talk very briefly about your love of this man and why he was in your presentation.
Of course, he had to be.
Why?
There's just a necessity to include Lionel Messi over there because, jokes aside, he's just a very big role model for me. He's also South American. He's also about my exact height. So seeing someone there develop just after going from South America to Europe and doing it, I mean, in his case it's football, but doing it at the level that he did, and people recognizing him for what he represents rather than for what he looks like or where he is just something that drives my passion, drives my motivation. Of course, in a very completely different field, but in a nutshell, it's just seeing a fellow South American play beautiful football, and him being a representation of the inspiration of millions of people in his country. And I mean, after achieving the World Cup last year, that is just the pinnacle of his career. So hopefully one day I get to do something like that. Of course, not winning the World Cup because my days of playing football are long gone.
They're numbered.
But
I've seen you in five-a-side.
No. I'm a proper CDM. The real ones know.
Well, you know,
the real ones
people
know.
Listening think that you are a proper CDM.
Yeah, no, they are.
I mean, you are old school Javier Mascherano kind of just. Do you know? I won't say Javier Mascherano. Maybe I'll say Gattuso. But I want to say have Mascherano because it's the South America.
I just get the tackles. I get the tackles.
You just get the tackles and then you give it to somebody else who's technically better. But you do your job.
Yeah, the job is done. No one can ask for much more.
But in terms of the research project in that field, I mean, you more than do the job there because I remember we all came along to your presentation and it was excellent. And then that also opened up more opportunities for you going forward, didn't it? Yes,
because I mean, the conference that you're referencing is ICER, the International Conference of Undergraduate Research.
Yeah.
The student director, who was actually my friend at that moment, right now actually as well.
Wait, who was that again?
His name is Fernando. He has graduated from Warwick last year. He studied chemistry and he did the URSS from 2000. Well, not sure which year though, but he did it from his second to his third year.
So what is he up to now? Is he doing postgrad stuff?
I think he is in the Netherlands. I think working right now in his first year actually out of university. I have not spoken to him since World Beaker, which is another conference.
Yeah,
and to the one that actually Fernando on that day of ICAR, he told me about this new conference that run in April, i.e. roughly 1 month ago. And he told me about it to apply, so I was actually thrilled for that. I just applied and it did work out. I got accepted as well, so I did present my research, but to a further extent now incorporating Angulo Live, because back then in September for ICAR, Angulo Live was not a thing yet. It was only a thing roughly 1 month ago, and it was only then that I did present my content creation channels and how it became an even greater thing now with proper significance in social media.
Amazing. So we have that, and I mean that was a very big. I didn't know at the time, but that was just the start for you. That was just the start of the journey,
beginning.
And the beginning, and look at where you already are now. All of us are very proud of you.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome, man. Yeah, we should say, over radio, this guy is, one of my best friends, and I couldn't be proud of the journey that he's been on
from day one.
Exactly,
in Herrenbank.
Yeah, Herrenbank. First year we were in the same flat together, 106 Herrenbank. And we met some amazing people there as well. We'll shout some of them out on radio now. So, Kieran, I think he's listening actually.
Potentially, who knows?
I think he did. He said that he'd listen to this. So if he's listening.
It's a Wednesday, so he's probably getting ready for pop.
He might, no, but not this early.
Who knows? I mean, he likes to drink, so.
Pop, no. Pop, we will we'll talk about afterwards, but that's obviously part of uni culture in a sense. But in terms of that flat, that's one thing I wanted to come on to in terms of what keeps you ticking outside of academia, because we all need external things that keep us motivated, or people, I suppose, who help us along our journey, and I think this is the good segue to move us away from the academic side, which we spoke about for the most of the show, and talk about the personal side more, and I guess I refer to it as the man behind the work. So I think since we referred to our flat during first year, let's talk about other interests of things outside of academia in the last year and a half, which I guess things that you found challenging, but then also things that have helped motivate you. I know that's kind of vague, but in terms of things that I find challenging, obviously you don't have to. You can go into as much depth as you want to, but by that I mean, maybe some personal challenges that you've had to overcome, and which have helped you become stronger in a sense.
Okay, I get that. Well, firstly, in my even more creative interests, I love writing and performing music, more of the former than the latter actually, but I've just kept producing music that I had started back in Peru, that is orchestral works in either small orchestras that are more of a Baroque style, or even 20th century proper and large orchestras, or even piano sonatina that I have also posted in my Spotify artist page, and just small projects of music that is quite niche. There are no lyrics yet, but yeah, so those projects in just writing music. Then I have kept improving my ability in, for proper performing. I play the saxophone. I play the soprano saxophone, the alto, and the tenor. For other more jokingly and not so formal context, I do play the recorder flute, which is well distinguished around the world, some may argue.
Yeah, I used to play recorder, and I also used to play. I remember telling you about this. I used to play violin too.
Oh yeah, violin.
Yeah, violin was great because I just think music in general is something that is such a good way to either you can use it to disconnect a little bit from studies. Yeah. It's just you played saxophone and stuff. I remember last year you used to play in the flat, and we all enjoyed it. You played well. But yeah, I used to play violin as well. That was something that would take me away from academics for a bit, something I really enjoyed, and also recorded for a while as well. Really enjoyed that. But it's good to have that, you know, like music is one thing. It's good to have, you know, something else for other things that you're passionate about, you know, things that keep you going as well. Because we all know that academia, I mean, especially, you know, for someone like you, you're a very hard worker and you're always, you know, very focused on your studies and the things that your goals and your aims. Like you do need a bit of a break sometimes, things to disassociate, things to, you know, allow you to, you know, sort of have, take a bit of time away from academia every once in a while. Otherwise you can get a bit worn out or a bit drained. You know, so music is one good thing. Can you tell me about any others, any other passions and hobbies that you have outside of academia?
Well, perhaps one of which that partially, not fully, brought me here to the UK is that, and during these times it's difficult to say, but I am a Chelsea fan, supporting ever since 2014 fully. Right now, situation, I cannot lie, it is a bit tough, but we're still there. It's been almost 9 years supporting this lovely unstable club, but it's what gets me going with some friends as well. And yeah, right now watching football with some friends, just Champions League football, Premier League football. I highly enjoy that. Every now and then a five-a-side football match can never go wrong. So that is just another area in which I can just not focus on my robotic mathematical self. So that quite helps. So every now and then.
Coming on to that, yeah, it's quite funny because we can't have everything in life, right? You know, sometimes things go well in one area and then things don't go so well in other areas. And I think you supporting Chelsea this year has been more of a hindrance rather than actually something that's helped you. Unfortunately so. We can talk more about that on... I will invite you onto the Warwick Sports Show at some point, which is...
I look forward to that.
Every Friday from 3 to 4. We'll just plug that in now. I obviously am head of sport now, so you can tune in to listen to more of my voice. And hopefully yours, you know, when I invite you on. But we will talk about Chelsea in depth, but all I need to say on this show is that it hasn't been an easy year for you guys in the Premier League this year.
Not at all.
No. For me, it's in terms of my football team, it's been a better year, but unfortunately, it's not ended the way that we wanted it to.
Not the year for London.
No, unfortunately not. No. But I also wanted to talk about. So I wanted to move on to content creation and YouTube, because I wanted to have a nice conversation about this, because this is also something that I'm interested in, and an area which I don't necessarily... Content creation is something I want to get into a little bit as well. I don't necessarily put out content on my YouTube channel or anything yet, but you know, it's just it's an area I've always been interested in. I've always been like sort of consuming a lot of YouTube and sort of, you know, have certain channels which I like in particular. So one of the ways that I personally got into you know, podcasting radio, but got interested into it, is, you know, there are different podcast radio shows that are great, you know, like, I mean, you've got like, I know you'll know about Joe Rogan.
Yes.
That's a very popular one.
He actually appears in one of my reels with AI voice generation.
I think I've seen that one.
He is there.
Yeah, no, he was one of the, like, I suppose, inspirations when I was a bit younger and listening to his, you know, podcasts, and like, wow, okay, it'd be very cool to be him one day. Obviously we're very far off that, but you know, it's the start of a journey, and we'll see where it goes.
You have to go bold.
You have to go bold. I mean, we'll refer to that in, you know, not the literal sense, because I do like my hair.
Yeah, hopefully not.
It's too early for me to go bold. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a nice inspiration for me. But in terms of, like, if we talk about like shared interest when it comes to content creation, like away from academia as an example, like I know that we were having a discussion the other day about DJ Mario.
Oh, DJ Mario, of course, in Spain.
Yeah. Can you tell me how, like, I mean, we might as well talk about this now. Like, when did you first start watching DJ Mario, and then how did you get into it?
Well, that was shortly after he started his days on YouTube, because that was around the time that, as I said earlier today, that I had the choice between going properly into becoming a YouTuber before my academic endeavors, and that was my main interest was FIFA. So I would have become a FIFA Peruvian YouTuber, and he was my main source of inspiration, as he is to all FIFA YouTubers.
Yeah,
And I
he's the OG.
would say even to even a greater extent, because that man had just started posting content from Ultimate Team, which is, for those who don't play FIFA, is just a way for you to create a team based on transfers in the market with the other FIFA players around the world. And he started with that, and he created inner jokes within his channel. And if you knew the lore and what's going on within the channel, then one builds up a sense of community, and he did that so amazingly well, such that he became one of the biggest YouTubers ever, not only in the Hispanic community, but also in the entire world community. And now seeing him not only progress in the content creation stage, he's now one of the presidents in this league called the Kings League, that is of type of a fantasy type of seven-a-side league football in Spain, in which other content creators are presidents of their respective teams, and they sign players from a certain denomination, and they all play against each other with special rules that are not of proper football, but they just invent different things. For instance, a manager can play a card in which a football player has to come off for 5 minutes, or something special happens, a team randomly gets a penalty. It's wild, you don't know what to expect, and it's generating surprise amongst viewers and the sense of a very brilliant community.
Awesome, man. That sounds amazing. I mean, yeah, Gigi Mario is also someone that I started watching as well, joined interest of FIFA, and it's, do you know what it is about content creation? Is like, because I remember we were talking about this, and you would speak a lot about how you thought that it was, either you can go into content creation or go into the academia side. Whereas I think now you see that there is a way of combining both, and so that's what you started doing, which is fantastic. There's always it's good when there's a way of combining your different interests that you have, and those are doing those things at the same time, or like I said, combining them into one. It's like two passions that you've had, and being able to explore both is really amazing.
Thank you.
It's great. And I think what I want to do now is go into a little break again, and then we'll have about 8 minutes left of the show. And in the last 8 minutes, we'll just have a little conversation about, some more common interests that we have, and maybe some goals that you have going forward, both academically, but then also not academically in terms of personal development. Because one of the things I'm very interested in, and I also touched on a lot in previous shows, previous Radio Eli shows, is looking at the personal journey and personal side of people's lives, and obviously focusing on mental health and areas like that, which we can have a conversation about another time if you're up for it, because that's still an area that I want to
well, I'd love that.
touch on it and talk about. It is really important. But yeah, so we'll do that to round off the show, and then we'll be done for this week. So I will play, much to the disappointment of my guest here,
oh no,
Despacito,
of course,
by Luis Fonsi.
Enjoy that.
What are you doing? We don't do that.
Okay, and we are back for the last 5 minutes of the show. So I do want to say in advance, I want to say thank you for coming on today, Carlos.
No, thank you for having me.
You've been a great guest here as well. And it's been I've really enjoyed the conversation. And I do hope that this is just this isn't the only time that you come on.
It will not be.
The invitation is always out there for you to come on more in future.
We'll be back. I'll be back.
Yeah, and obviously we have, speech, but then I also obviously head of sport here, so we also have opportunities for you to come on to different sports shows as well, which I know that
that would be pretty
enjoy,
cool.
Yeah. So that'd be great. And no, I've had a blast. It's been amazing, to be honest. Talking about your journey is fantastic, because
Thank you.
It's something that I've been there to see, but it's something that I wanted you to share with other people, because it's it's pretty, it's just got started, but it's pretty inspirational what you're doing already. A lot of people, have already told you this, have told you how, how well you're doing, and just to continue on that journey, And the thing I can say personally as well is like when you see your friends doing so well and doing amazing things, it also inspires you to do better and to strive to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, just uplifting others within our different friendship circles.
Exactly. And personally, I can say, we don't have much time, but I can say for me personally, it's been quite a difficult year up until I suppose February.
I can see
March, and we've had discussions about this, but just having good friends like you, has been really useful. In terms of we keep each other
sane.
We keep each other sane. Yeah, keep each other sane is the best way. It's true. At times it has been like that. Yeah, but it allows you to to be able to think about reaching your potential. Is you need good people around you as well who in difficult moments they help to support you as well. And I think we've done that really well for each other this year, and also last year as well. It's been great. But I'll let you round off because I need you to do some self promo and to tell people where to find you.
Lovely.
And why they should subscribe to your channel and follow you on Instagram and also TikTok.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell, you can just follow in YouTube, subscribe to Instagram and TikTok, follow. That is because, you'll be able to see memes, you'll be able to have just a laugh. It's not really that theoretical. At most, you will see US presidents and celebrities talking to each other with AI-generated voice. So that could be something interesting. Aside from that, it's just me promoting my tools, the things that I code in a not so formal way, so you can perhaps pick up something from that. And especially for those who are interested in economics and applied mathematics, you will then be able to be redirected to my actual website, which is www.jo-lou.co.uk. It's called Jolu, and there you will be able to find the collection of calculators that I have had up to date, also my research paper that I published last year, and in an essence, just follow my journey as a content creator and see how a day in a life it can be for a Warwick student or someone who is doing applied research, and just follow my academic journey, because I'd really appreciate your support in fulfilling this dream of mine, and also in supporting those who need it, in this case economics and applied mathematics students.
And also one more thing is that you obviously also your relationship with Warwick Economics site as well, who you partnered with, and they're also helping you to promote your stuff too. And
shout out to Econsoc.
Econsoc. It's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's top. It's one of the top. It's one of the biggest societies on campus.
Yeah, we're the largest society.
The largest, actually. Yeah, exactly. Along with I know you've got finance as well.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah. But yeah, Econsoc is very big. So amazing that you're doing work with them, and you've done work with them last year too.
Yeah, now with a new department and with new work, but that is only very thrilling for the future.
Yeah, and I will also shout out this station because like I said, they're sort of starting doing shows on here, building confidence, hosting my own shows, and the journey so far has been amazing, and I've really loved it. And also everybody that I've met here, it's been fantastic and so helpful. In sort of my journey so far doing this, and helping me to learn different skill sets and times where I wasn't exactly sure where to take things, giving me advice, and so yeah, this Raw 1251 amazing, and yeah, thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you to the Raw as well.
Great show. And this is just we'll have quite a few. We've got a lot more to coming up, the rest of the term as well. We've got some very cool guests coming on, throughout the rest of the term as well. Especially when I'm finished with exams, I'll have more time when I'm finished with assignments and everything, and when you're finished with exams too, and everyone finished with exams, there'll be more time for everybody, especially for me to create more content and shows as well. And